The distance between heartbeats. Some endings don't start with a crash. They start with silence. 15 years married, and Derek couldn't remember the last time he and Lila had laughed together without it feeling forced. They moved through the same house like ghosts, brushing past each other in the hallway, trading polite smiles over burnt toast, slipping into bed with a foot of empty space between them. It wasn't anger. It wasn't betrayal. It was something worse. It was indifference. Derek sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of cold coffee, listening to the clock tick loud in the quiet. Lila was upstairs, getting ready for work. Probably staring into the mirror, fixing the hair he used to run his hands through just to make her laugh. Now he barely touched her at all. There was a time when he could tell you everything about her. The exact shade of green in her eyes when she was excited. The way she bit her lip when she was nervous. The way she would hum under her breath when she was lost in thought. Now, she was a stranger he lived with. And maybe, if he was honest, he was a stranger too. The drift had been slow. Invisible at first. Busy jobs. Busy lives. Missed dinners. Forgotten anniversaries. Little cuts that didn't bleed until you realized you were already bleeding out. Derek finished his coffee and stared out the window. The backyard was a mess, grass too long, patio furniture half-toppled from last week's storm. He'd meant to fix it. Just like he meant to fix the broken fence, the squeaky door, the way Lila's smile had faded piece by piece until it wasn't there at all. Upstairs, he heard the soft click of Lila closing the bedroom door. Shoes on the hardwood. Keys jangling in her hand. He didn't get up to kiss her goodbye. She didn't wait for him to try. The front door opened, closed. The car pulled away. And Derek sat there, staring at the empty driveway, feeling like a man who had lost something without even knowing he was losing it. Some love stories end with betrayal. Some with a fight you never recover from. But theirs? It was ending with silence. And Derek, heart thudding in his chest like a slow, heavy drum, finally realized something. You can lose a person long before they ever leave. The thing about small towns is this. You can leave, but you're never really gone. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Derek saw her again. He was standing in line at Miller's Hardware, trying to find the right size screws to fix the busted patio chair, one more little chore he should have done weeks ago. The bell over the door chimed, and without even turning, he felt it. That ripple down his spine. That tightening in his gut. He turned. And there she was. Savannah Reed. She looked almost exactly the same, or maybe it was just his memory snapping into place, filling in the blanks. Long chestnut hair, sharp brown eyes that didn't miss a thing, a smile that once made him forget how to breathe. It had been 17 years. A lifetime. And yet in that moment, it could have been yesterday. Savannah caught his eye and froze for half a second. Then she smiled, that same reckless grin, and walked straight toward him like no time had passed at all. Derek Cole, she said, her voice a low drawl that pulled at old places inside him. I'll be damned. He swallowed hard, the hardware aisle tilting just a little under his boots. Savannah, he said, somehow steady. Didn't know you were back in town. She shrugged like it was nothing. Like she hadn't once taken his heart and smashed it against the pavement without looking back. Just for a while. Dad's sick. I'm helping out. Derek nodded, fingers tightening around the pack of screws in his hand. He wanted to say something easy, something casual, welcome back, sorry about your dad, but all he could think about was the last time he'd seen her. Him on one knee. Her walking away. Savannah tilted her head, studying him the way you study a song you used to know by heart but can't quite remember the words to. You look good, she said, softer now. He laughed once, rough and humorless. Yeah. Real good. Middle-aged. Tired. Married to a woman who barely looked at him anymore. Savannah didn't press. She just smiled again, and for a second, Derek saw the girl she used to be, wild and fearless. Well, she said, taking a step back. Maybe I'll see you around. He didn't answer. He just watched her go out the door, into the bright afternoon. And standing there, Derek felt something deep inside him shift. Something old. Something dangerous. Because Savannah wasn't just a ghost. She was a match. And Derek, whether he admitted it or not, was standing neck-deep in gasoline. Derek didn't tell Lila about seeing Savannah. Not that night. Not the next. The word sat on the edge of his tongue every time she walked past him, every time they shared the same stale space without touching. But they never quite made it out. At first, he told himself it wasn't important. Just an old ghost. Just a flicker of a life he barely remembered. But deep down, he knew. Keeping it to himself was the first real lie. Not the kind you shout across a courtroom. The kind you bury, slow and quiet, under the floorboards of a life you're still trying to pretend is fine. The third night after seeing Savannah, Derek and Lila sat across from each other at the kitchen table, eating microwave lasagna in the sickly yellow light. The house around them hummed with silence, the refrigerator clicking, the faint sound of cars hissing by on wet pavement outside. Lila broke first. "You've been quiet lately," she said, stabbing her fork into the limp noodles. Derek shrugged. "Just tired. Not technically a lie. Just not the whole truth." She studied him, those steady, careful eyes that once saw right through him. Maybe they still did. Maybe she just didn't want to know what she'd find. Lila pushed her plate away. Crossed her arms. "We used to talk," she said. "Remember?" Derek opened his mouth. Closed it. All he could think about was Savannah's smile, the way it had cracked something wide open inside him just by being there. "I'm still here," he said finally, and even he heard how hollow it sounded. Lila laughed, short, sharp, sad. "No, you're not," she said. Then she stood up, dumped her plate in the sink, and left him sitting there in the half-light, drowning. Derek stayed at the table a long time after she was gone. Hands clenched on the edge of the wood, staring at nothing. It was too easy to pretend nothing was wrong. To file the sharp edges down, to smile and nod and go through the motions. But pretending, he realized, was just another kind of dying. Slow. Silent. Certain. And the worst part? He wasn't even sure if he wanted to stop. It started over something stupid. It always does. The broken fence. The one Derek had promised to fix 2 months ago. Lila found the neighbor's dog wandering into their yard again, muddy paws tracking across the patio, knocking over the grill. She came back inside red-faced, slamming the screen door so hard it rattled in its frame. "Would it kill you to just handle one damn thing?" she snapped. Derek was sitting on the couch, still wearing his work boots, dust from the job clinging to his jeans. He looked up slowly, like a man already tired before the first punch even landed. "I'll fix it this weekend," he said. "You said that last weekend." Her voice was tight, a rubber band stretched to snapping. "I work, Lila. I'm tired. I'm doing the best I can." "Are you?" That one landed different. Soft words, but sharp as knives. Derek stood up, boots thudding against the old hardwood. "You think this is easy for me," he said, voice rising. "You think I don't see what's happening to us?" Lila folded her arms, chin tilted up in that way that used to drive him crazy, used to thrill him, because it meant she was alive, fiery, fighting for something. Now it just felt like standing in front of a firing squad. "What's happening to us," she said, slow and deliberate, "is that I'm here. I'm still here. And you're somewhere else. Wherever the hell that is." Derek opened his mouth to tell her about Savannah, about the hardware store, about the way one look had rattled loose every old ache he thought he buried. But the words stayed trapped. Shame welded them tight. Instead, he just barked, "Maybe I'm tired of trying for something that already died a long time ago." And there it was. The words neither of them could take back. Lila flinched like he'd hit her. Her hands dropped to her sides. Her face went blank in that awful, practiced way people do when they're too hurt to show it. For a second, Derek wanted to say he didn't mean it. That he was scared, not angry. That he still loved her, even if he couldn't find the map back to her anymore. But pride swallowed the apology whole. Lila turned. Walked upstairs without another word. And Derek stood there in the empty living room, the late afternoon light spilling in through the broken fence, feeling the first cold edges of a life breaking apart. No yelling. No plates thrown. Just two people choosing, in 1,000 tiny ways, to stop reaching for each other. And deep down, he knew. This wasn't a fight you win. It was just the kind you survive. If you're lucky. The house was quiet after the fight. Too quiet. Derek sat alone on the couch, beer untouched in his hand, staring at the walls like they might offer some kind of answer. Instead, they gave him memories. Memories that didn't forgive. He remembered the first time he met Lila, a 4th of July cookout at the lake, her in cut-off shorts and a bandana around her hair, barefoot in the grass, laughing like she owned the whole damn world. He remembered the way she looked at him, bold and curious, like she was measuring if he was worth her time. And the way he felt seen, alive, electric under her gaze. They fell fast. Too fast, maybe. But it hadn't felt reckless back then. It felt inevitable. Like the sky turning after sunset, slow but unstoppable. Derek could still picture their first apartment, cracked tiles, peeling paint, hand-me-down furniture. And Lila dancing barefoot in the kitchen, spinning in circles while an old radio played love songs through static. He'd pulled her into his arms that night, promised her things he wasn't even sure he could name. Not riches. Not a big house. Just them. Together, against whatever came. For a long time, that was enough. He remembered the nights they stayed up talking until dawn about dreams too big for their wallets, about the kind of life they wanted to build. Kids. A house where the windows stayed open all summer. A love that would outlast every bad day. They never talked about what happened if the dreams cracked. If the laughter faded. If one day they woke up strangers. He took a slow pull of the beer, the taste bitter and hollow. Upstairs, he heard the soft creak of floorboards, Lila moving around, avoiding him even in sleep. Derek leaned back and closed his eyes. Some people think the worst kind of heartbreak is loud doors slamming, voices raised to shatter the ceiling. But he knew better. The worst kind is quiet. It's remembering the way her hand fit perfectly into his. The way she used to say his name like it meant something. It's knowing that somewhere along the way, you both stopped fighting for it. Stopped believing you were worth saving. And no matter how many memories you have, no matter how sharp and golden they are, they can't stitch the wounds you keep making today. They just sit there. Echoing. Reminding you of everything you once were, and everything you're not anymore. A week passed. No big blowout. No tearful apologies. Just a slow, grinding silence. Derek and Lila floated through the same house like planets orbiting each other, always close enough to see, never close enough to touch. Some nights, Derek would hear her crying in the next room. Soft. Controlled. The kind of crying that people do when they don't want anyone to hear. He never went to her. He told himself it was because she needed space. But the truth was uglier. He didn't know if he was still the person she wanted reaching for her. On the surface, they still played the part. Small talk about groceries. Trading calendars. Nods across the kitchen. Neighbors still waved when they saw them on the porch. Family still sent Christmas cards with smiling faces and hope you two are doing great. Scrawled in cheerful ink. But underneath it all, something rotten grew. Derek realized something one morning, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush limp in his hand. He and Lila weren't fighting to save their marriage. They were fighting to survive the guilt of losing it. There's a difference. Saving something means you believe it's still alive. Still worth it. Surviving it means you've already buried it, you're just too scared to walk away from the grave. He thought about Savannah again, her easy smile, her fearless way of looking at him like he hadn't already failed at the biggest promise he ever made. A dangerous thought flickered in his brain. Maybe it would be easier to start over with someone who doesn't know the weight you carry. Someone who remembers you as you were, not as you are. He hated himself for thinking it. But the truth was, when you get tired enough, lonely enough, broken enough, you start wondering if love really is supposed to be this hard. Or if maybe, you just missed your shot at the real thing somewhere along the way. Derek finished brushing his teeth. Spat into the sink. Stared at himself, red-rimmed eyes, tired lines, the ghost of a man who once believed forever meant something. What we settle for isn't comfort. It's fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear that maybe you were never enough to begin with. And Derek? He was getting real tired of being afraid. Derek woke in a haze of restless sleep, feeling the weight of every unsaid word and every missed touch. That morning came with a startling clarity, like a heartbeat you nearly forgot was still there, waiting to remind you that you're still alive. In the silent gray of dawn, as Lila moved around the kitchen with slow, deliberate motions, Derek sat at the table, staring at an old photograph he'd found tucked in a drawer. It was a snapshot of them, many years back, captured mid-laughter on a summer night. He traced the outline of her face with a shaking finger, remembering how vibrant her eyes once shone with hope and mischief. In that moment, the distance between who they were and who they'd become hit him hard, a gulf filled with missed chances and unspoken truths. He rose, heart pounding in a way that was foreign yet necessary, and walked outside. The chill of the early morning brushed against him, and with every step, memories of better times surged forward, the late-night talks that turned into laughter, the promises made over cups of coffee, the gentle embrace that once said, "I'll always be here." But now, the silence and the wind seemed to whisper of things lost, trust frayed by secrets and love diminished by quiet desperation. Inside the house, Lila paused midway through making her morning tea, as if feeling a shift in the air. Derek's presence at the doorway was simple but potent. He didn't need words to fill the space. His eyes, raw and searching, met hers, and for a fragile second, the weight of the years melted into the bittersweet recollection of when things were different. "I'm sorry," he finally uttered, voice trembling with regret and a steely determination. It was the apology of a man who knew he'd strayed from the path they'd promised each other, a desperate plea to reconnect, even if just for a while, to catch the rhythm of the heartbeat they'd long forgotten. Lila's eyes glistened, not out of immediate forgiveness but recognition. Recognition that the man standing there was not the phantom of her disappointments but still the man who had once made her feel cherished. They didn't speak for several agonizing minutes, the silence heavy with the past and the fragile promise of renewal. In that quiet morning, as the sun began to sift in through grimy windows, Derek realized, to reclaim love, both must acknowledge what they'd allowed to slip away. And in the soft, hesitant beat of their hearts, there lay the potential to rediscover the pulse of something real, raw, sincere, and worth fighting for. They didn't fix it overnight. There was no grand speech, no perfect apology, no movie scene kiss that wiped away years of slow bleeding. There was just Derek and Lila, two tired, stubborn people, sitting across from each other at the kitchen table a few days later, finally speaking like it mattered again. "I don't know if we can go back," Lila said quietly, stirring her coffee. "To the people we used to be." Derek watched her, heart clenching at the fear in her voice, fear that maybe she was too broken, that maybe they both were. He set down his own cup, palms flat against the table like he needed the solid wood to hold him steady. "Maybe we're not supposed to," he said. "Maybe we figure out who we are now, and if there's still room for each other in it." It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even reassuring. But it was honest. For the first time in years, Lila smiled. Not a big one. Not a full rescue. Just the soft curve of someone willing to hope again, even if it hurt. They made a plan that night. Small things, nothing heroic. Dinner together once a week, no phones, no excuses. Counseling, if they could stomach it. Honesty, even when it scraped the skin raw. Not because love was easy. But because they finally understood something. Love isn't just how you feel about someone. It's what you choose to build with them. And sometimes, when it's broken, you don't just rebuild the relationship. You rebuild yourself. In the weeks that followed, it wasn't perfect. Some nights, Derek still thought about Savannah, about the easy escape she represented. But each time the thought came, he met it head on, reminding himself that real love wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be earned, every damn day. Lila had her battles too, fighting resentment, swallowing doubts, choosing to believe in the man who had once promised her forever under the July stars. And somehow, in the cracks and the hard conversations, something new started growing. Something not as shiny as first love, but tougher, deeper. One morning, Derek woke to find Lila's hand resting over his chest, fingers splayed wide, feeling the slow, steady beat of his heart. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. It wasn't about fixing the past anymore. It was about choosing each other right now, in the mess, in the aftermath. Choosing to stay. Choosing to fight. Choosing love. And maybe, finally, choosing themselves too.